I've had my pet bluegill for a little over 6 months now. There are 5 of them in this tank, and the largest one, which is the one that you're looking at here, is about 5.5 inches long. I'm assuming it's a male, but it's probably too early to tell. Nonetheless, when the light hits this fish from just the right angle, you can see a hint of purple all along the upper part of its body. And since he's the largest fish in the tank, he pretty much does whatever he wants to, but despite his larger size, he's not as brave as the smaller bluegill. It might just be that he's a little older, a bit wiser, and not so willing to take as many risks as the younger fish. Nonetheless, the difference in size between this male and the other bluegill seems to be getting larger and larger with each passing month. Here they are feeding on live blackworms, which I give them as an occasional treat. The blackworms are fully aquatic and they're my favorite live food because most fish find them very hard to resist. But these bluegill have gotten a bit too large for me to keep feeding them with these tiny worms. And they're big enough now for me to start feeding them with small earthworms, and that should be lots of fun. And as you can see, one fish is much larger than all the rest, so he pretty much runs the show, but there's very little aggression between these 5 bluegill, so I'm happy about that. The main issue with this tank right now is the cyanobacteria, but I haven't really done anything to correct the problem. There's some algae as well, but I don't mind that so much. Even the cyanobacteria wouldn't be so bad if it didn't cover the plant leaves and interfere with photosynthesis. In this next scene, I've dropped some live blackworms into the tank, and the largest male is about to race over to inspect the falling worms. But he'll misjudge the distance and get too close to the worms for him to see them clearly. Then it looks as if he uses his pectoral fins twice to create a small current of water that pushes the blackworms up and away, presumably so that he can get a better look at the falling worms before he commits to eating them. I've seen several different species of fish use this same technique for manipulating objects in their environment. It usually involves food, but I've also seen cichlids use small currents created by their pectoral fins to flush out young fry from tight spaces where they couldn't be reached by the parent. There's no doubt about it, these bluegill are intelligent fish, and they're keenly aware of everything that's going on around them. And the more time I spend observing their behavior, the more I realize that these fish are not just running on instinct, but they're actually thinking creatures who weigh all of the information provided by their senses before they decide to act. They watch, they learn, and they adapt. And remember, they're watching you just as much as you're watching them, which causes me to wonder who's learning more from this interaction, me or my fish? I've removed the frog bit that was floating at the surface and replaced it with another floating plant called hornwort. I've also added some more driftwood to the tank as well, and I'm still coping with an outbreak of cyanobacteria. But everything looks pretty good right now because the driftwood is new and I recently cleaned up some of the cyanobacteria when I did a water change. I love the wild look of this tank. The dense covering of plants helps the fish feel more at ease by giving them lots of places to hide, but they're usually out and about whenever I enter the room because they're always looking for food. They're still growing, and as you can see, one fish is growing faster than all the rest. And it isn't because the smaller fish are not getting enough to eat. They get plenty of food, so it must be something else. It could be that the largest fish was born earlier, or that he's releasing hormones into the water that's slowing the growth rate of the other fish. Either way, he's healthy and he's happy, and he's the only one that started to develop the telltale blue coloration along the gill plates that gives these fish the name bluegill. Hopefully this light blue coloration along the bottom of the gill cover will continue to expand as the fish ages. In the wild, the males will become even more brightly colored during the spawning season when they're trying to impress the females and convince them to lay eggs. But here in captivity, it's pretty unlikely that they'll spawn without the proper conditioning, such as a winter cool-down period where the water temperature drops and the light levels decrease. And even if they did spawn, all hell would break loose as the male would try to drive everyone away from the nest site. And in a 55-gallon tank, there's just not enough room for the other fish to get far enough away from the hyper-territorial male as he tries to defend his young. And even though these fish can't speak to me using words, they have other ways of communicating exactly how they feel. Here, the largest bluegill is waiting for me to feed him, and he's getting very impatient because I'm filming him instead of putting food into the tank like I normally do when I enter the room. And this is his way of letting me know that he's not very happy with me right now. So he watches and he waits to see what I'll do. He's looking for that telltale red and gold bag to appear, which will let him know that it's time to eat. In the next video, I'll be introducing these fish to live earthworms, and then I'll be trying to get them to take the worms directly from my hand. So be sure to check out part 4 of this look at my pet bluegill. Thanks for watching, and I really hope that you have a beautiful day.